Yeah.
Just to be doubly sure.
Yes, it is.
It is broadcasting. It says that. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. It's still not showing it on Facebook though. Yeah.
Oh,
I think there's a delay. Yeah, now it's showing fine. That is good. We can see it on Facebook. All right. So let's start this session today with our short prayers to the spiritual master. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Welcome to our Saturday evening session on reading from the Bhagavad-gita. Thank you so much for making this important and wise decision to spend your Saturday evening listening to Krishna Katha and discussions on Krishna. So, which chapter are we doing in Bhagavad-gita?
4.
Fourth.
Chapter 4. And what's the name of chapter 4?
Transcendental knowledge.
Jnana Yoga.
Okay.
Jnanam.
And why is it important for us to learn transcendental knowledge? Why do you think?
Because Guru Maharaj says, Om Agyanti Mirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. So with the light of knowledge, we can remove all the, darkness of our mind and heart and become pure and get closer to Krishna.
Okay, that is good. That's a good answer. And in the context of Bhagavad Gita that we are reading, why do you think we have to learn transcendental knowledge?
So if we know the science of Krishna consciousness, then we can, it will help us to pursue our spiritual path.
Okay, so it's an aid. So, okay, so one is that it helps you open your eyes. Second is that it aids you in your pursuit. That is good. And in the context of what we have all been reading.
Soul, God, and relationship.
Oh, you mean the previous chapters or in this chapter?
Yeah.
Oh, previous chapters, yeah. So that we can remove the lust that's covering our mind and
correct, for 500 points. Yeah. So in chapter number 5, Krishna had Arjuna had asked that question, like, what is it that forces me to do things as if I don't want to, even if I don't want, seem to not wanting to be doing them.
Yeah.
And Krishna said, it's lust only, Arjuna.
Only lust.
And he said that Rajogun Samadbhavaha, that it is created or it takes birth because of our association with Rajogun, which is the mode of material nature. Right? And Mahasano, it is all devouring. Mahapapma, it makes you do sinful activities. And he says that you understand this to be Varinam, that it is your eternal enemy. You should know that, right? And then, but you are, and towards the end of the Bhagavad Gita, he says, you know yourself, lowers the dull matter, of the dull matter, the senses, of the senses is the mind, of the mind is the intelligence, and above the intelligence is you, soul, he says that, right? And so there's a hierarchy that he established that we are spiritual beings. So we need to get that knowledge. And in the last verse, he says that, that you know yourself to be transcendental to all these modes. So now, how do I know? No, right? So that's why chapter number 4 goes and talks about transcendental knowledge. Okay, so let's go then and look at chapter number 4. And welcome, Sumi Mataji and Chitra Mataji. Happy to have you here on the call, as well as those who are watching here on Facebook.
Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Ananda Pranams. Okay, so let me know if you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Mataji.
yes.
And are you able to see chapter number 4, verse number 2?
No.
No.
Now.
Yes.
Yes, Mataji.
Yes, you can see it now. Okay, that's good
Yes.
news. Okay, so in chapter number 4, we studied certain things last time. Do you remember what we talked about? Chapter number 1, what did
The
we
whole
talk about?
disciplic succession in the first verse.
He was talking about the disciplic succession, right? And he particularly said that he had taught this Bhagavad Gita earlier also, right? And what did he say? To whom had he taught it earlier? Do you remember?
Vivaswan.
Vivaswan, Vishwan, and
Vivashwan was, who is Vivashwan?
Surya Devta,
Surya
sun
Devta.
god.
Sun god and Vivaswan and Manu.
And then Manu, and then
Ikshvaku.
Ikshvaku.
Right? And Ishvaku was the king of
He's the king of the earth.
planet Earth, right? Right? So that's how it is coming down, right? So we also have to understand that what Krishna is going to give the knowledge, what you need to assimilate in your life will depend on where you are, whether you are a sun planet, whether you're on the sun planet or whether you're on the earth planet. Things are going to be different. Rules are going to be different there, right? Our sun is a heavenly planet. And also, it also depends on the time, things that mean one thing in the rules also change, and the environment, the circumstances also change. And there's a very nice article that somebody wrote and I was reading the other day, which was very sweet. It is about Bhishma, right? Bhishma from Mahabharata, and so grandsire Bhishma. So he is lying on his bed of arrows, right? So after the Mahabharata war has ended, he was still lying on his bed of arrows. He was waiting for the right sun to move into the right place, right? Uttarayan. From Dakshinayan had to go to the Uttarayan, so he was still there. And so he's there lying on his bed of arrows, and Krishna comes to him to meet him. And we all know that he's a devotee of the Lord. And so when he goes there, Krishna says, and this is obviously not necessarily that these conversations happen, but the person who's writing is trying to bring the bhav and the sweetness of the relationship. So Krishna goes and he says to Bhishma Pitama that, Pitama, I can't even ask you, how are you, right? But this is the situation of our lives, right? We are all sitting on bed of arrows, right? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Yes, absolutely.
Right. And then when people say, and then others see that, and then still they ask, how are you? And then even more foolish are us who say, we are fine, thank you. Everything is going fine. So
when I go to doctor's office, they say, how are you?
Exactly. I wouldn't be here, doctor.
Always ask, how are you?
So, yeah. So anyway, so he's asking that, I can't even say, how are you? And then, one thing leads to another. And then Bhishma says that, I have a question to ask you. And so he says that, okay, tell me that whatever happened in the Mahabharata war, was it the right thing or was it wrong? So Krishna being Krishna, he says, so who are you talking about? Are you talking about Kauravas or are you talking about Pandavas? So Bhishma then says that, there's no point talking about Kauravas. Of course, I'm talking about Pandavas. So then Krishna says that, well, if you're going to ask that, what Pandava did was right or wrong, then you should ask the Pandavas. Why are you asking me? Then Bhishma says, stop teasing me, Krishna, tell me. So then Krishna says, Krishna asks that, so what is it that is bothering you about? What is it that makes you think that this is not right? And then he says that, Karn, he was killed when he didn't have a weapon in his hand. And in first chapter of Bhagavad-gita, Arjuna was saying, Nihatta Shastra, Dharta Rashtrana, that even if I don't have weapons in my hand, let them kill me, because the rules of the war was don't kill somebody who has got this. Then Jayadrat, how Jayadrat was killed, Krishna Sudarshan Chakra went and hit the sun, and Jayadrat thought it is sun, so he came out and then they killed him. Then Drona, Ashwathama is killed like that. So why? And I am very bewildered, Krishna. How could this happen when you were there? And you are the one who was Maryada Purushottam Ram in Dwapar Yuga, in Treta. And then Krishna says that, well, Dwapar is Dwapar, Treta is Treta. The yugs are different. And so when I was there as Lord Ramchandra, I was fighting. Times were different. I was fighting somebody who was a devotee of Lord Shiva. Right? And in those days, even in a family of Ramana, somebody called Vibhushan could be born. The times were different. So I had to follow all the rules and regulations because people were following them. But here in Kali Yuga, nothing like that happens. There is no such goodness over there, you know. Enemies are enemies, they're pulls apart like that, right? So that is why the teachings, you know, will be different in different stages of life, in different stages of the yugas. And also depending on which planet that you are, right? And we have talked so many times about, you know, things being different on the heavenly planets. And women have fun time, nobody says anything. But in Earth, it is supposed to be bad, right? When this, back again to Ramayana, when this Ramchandji brings Sita back home, and then there is this washerwoman whose wife didn't come back one night, and he's beating her and he's saying that you are bad character and I'm going to leave you, like that, right? So those are different. Those were different times. Rules were different. Not different times, but it's a different planet. On planet Earth, it's a different rule, but on the heavenly planet, the rules are different. So we have to understand that Sun planet and Earth planet, they are different. And so that's why he's telling him the lineage. He's telling him that, you know, I first told it to Sun God, he told it to Manu, and then Manu will tell him to it according to time and place and the circumstances. So similarly, you see that when Prabhupada came here to teach to people in America, the time was different, the place was different, and the circumstances were different. So he allowed certain things to, you know, the devotees to do, because he was just weaning them, you know, from bad habits to good. And then later on, so this is one of the questions that is always raised when there is Ekadashi. And they ask this question that, you know, so should I have mustard seeds on Ekadashi? Can you tell me chia seeds? And now, like, you know, you have to go and do a research, like, is it a grain or not a grain? The Prabhupada just said fast from grain on Ekadashi, right? And then, so tomatoes. A tomato is a grain, like from what angle of understanding will you think tomato is a grain? But then, you know, there are many who will not have tomatoes on Ekadashi, right? So I got a very nice answer from Vasishwari Mataji, who's my senior. She said that, you know, you have to understand that in the beginning, the rules are low, the bar is low. And then if you have, so it's easy for people to cross over and start doing devotional service and not be discouraged, right? So the teacher will tell them only that much. So Prabhupada said that, you know, just fast from grains and that's it. You can do everything else, right? And as you evolve a little bit more and you try to understand, you know, hing, people don't eat hing in Ekadashi. So why do they not eat hing in Ekadashi, right? It's not that hing is grain. But the thing is that to keep the hing asafoetida dry, people add rice powder to it. And that makes it a grain, right? So that's what people do. So sometimes you have to go dig deeper and try to get the knowledge and try to get the understanding also there. So, right, so he's telling him to the disciplic succession. So you have to understand things, and there'll be more on the disciplic succession in today's verse. Now, there was something very interesting that I also want to bring up in the verse from last time. And let's see, let me go to verse. So, what did Bhagwan Uvacha? Shri Bhagwan Uvacha, Imam Vivasvate Yogam Proktavam Aham Avyayam Vivasva Manave Praha Manur Ishva Kave Brabit. Right? So he's saying, Shri Bhagwan said that I told them, Imam, this, right? I told this to Vishwate and then Vishwaswan and Sun God, and then he told it to Manu, Manave Praha. But what did he tell him? Proktavam Aham Avyayam. So he's saying, I told, aham. Aham what? Proktaman, I told. What did I tell? Avyayam. So then, avyayam is imperishable. I told this imperishable knowledge. Okay? So keep this in mind. So now let's go to the next verse for our day today. And this is verse number 2. Evam parampara praptam mivam raja rishiyo viduhu sakale ne hamahata yogo nashtaha parantapa Evam parampara praptam imam raja rishiyo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. Evam parampara praptam imam raja rishiyo viduhu sakale namahata yogo nashta parantapa. So then he's continuing on. He's talking about that I told this to Vivashwan, to Manu, and to Ishvaku. And then now he continues on and he says that this supreme science was thus received through the chain of disciplic succession, and the saintly kings understood it in that way. But in course of time, the succession was broken, and therefore the science as it is appears to be lost. Right? So now, let's look at the purport. Purport by Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So here, it is clearly stated that the Gita was specially meant for the saintly kings because they were to execute its purport in ruling over the citizens. Certainly, Bhagavad-gita was never meant for the demonic persons who would dissipate its value for no one's benefit and would devise all types of interpretations according to personal whims. As soon as the original purpose was scattered by the motives of unscrupulous commentators, there arose the need to re-establish the disciplic succession. 5,000 years ago, it was detected by the Lord himself that the disciplic succession was broken, and therefore he declared that the purpose of the Bhagavad-gita appeared to be lost. In the same way, at the present moment also, there are so many editions of Gita, especially in English, but almost all of them are not according to authorized disciplic succession. There are innumerable interpretations rendered by different mundane scholars, but almost all of them do not accept the Supreme Personality of Godhead Krishna, though they make a good business on the words for Krishna. The spirit is demonic because demons do not believe in God, but simply enjoy the property of the Supreme. Since there is a great need of an edition of the Gita in English as it is received by the Parampara or the disciplic succession system, an attempt is made herewith to fulfill this great want. Bhagavad-gita accepted as it is a great boon to humanity, but if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, it's simply a waste of time. Shrama eva hi kevalam. Like that. Okay. So let's go back again to our verse. Evam parampara praptam imam raja rishayo viduhu sakale neha mahata yogo nashta parantapa. So let's, every word in this verse has got very strong meaning and very strong message to convey. So evam does. So whatever he gave to Ishvaku, etc. in the previous verse, now he's saying does. Parampara, by disciplic succession. Praptam is to receive. Imam, this science or this. Raja Rishaya, the saintly kings. Viduhu, understood. Saha, that knowledge. Kalenaha, in the course of time. Iha, in this world. Mahata, great. Yogaha, the science of one's relationship with the Supreme. Nashtaha, scattered. Paramtapa, O Arjun, subduer of the enemies. Okay, so let's pay some more attention on this. So, what is the meaning of great in Sanskrit?
Mahata.
Okay, and what is the science of one's relationship with God? Sambandhyan, what is that here?
Yoga.
Yoga.
Yogaha. And if you get it, then what you will say?
Viduhu.
Praptam.
Praptam. Very good, right? And if you get it from the saintly kings, from whom did you get it?
Rajashaya.
Raja Rishayaha. Raj Rishi, right? Okay. And then if you get it through disciplic succession, what do you call it?
Parampara.
Parampara.
Very nice. And if somebody can subdue his enemies, what's that called?
Paramtapa.
Parantapaha. Paramtapaha. Right? Okay. And something is scattered?
Mahata. No.
Nashtaha.
Nashtaha. Right. So this is a very interesting thing. We'll go over the words, etc. So what do you also understand from Nashta, from those who have a Hindi background? Something Nasht?
Nashta means loss.
Losing.
Loss.
Lost.
Nashtam.
Or destroyed, is it?
Destroyed, right?
Yeah,
Destroyed.
Nashta is destroyed and not scattered, right? So this is a very interesting thing, and which is kind of is the essence of this verse, right? The fact that we noticed just now. Okay, now let us do one thing. Let's open.
Oh, in Tamil, Nashtam is lost.
Yeah, because Tamil, yes, and that is right. Tamil will have Sanskrit words.
In Telugu also.
And that's right also, Aruni, right? So here we see they were describing this science, right? He says this science was described to me. What was the adjective that was used in this to describe this science? What type of a science was this?
Yogam?
Imperishable.
Imperishable, right? So imperishable means it cannot be nashta.
No, it cannot be.
Right? If something is imperishable, it cannot perish. It cannot be destroyed. Right? So you see over here, Prabhupada is nashta means destroyed. Nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevaya. We say nashta, right? They destroyed. Everything which is bad in the heart is destroyed. So, but you notice over here how Prabhupada has translated that into scattered or lost. Here he says it is lost, as Anani Mataji is saying that in Tamil, nashta is lost, right? So, and this is the essence of this verse, that if you want to understand anything, it has to come through disciplic succession. You have to learn it from a guru. Just knowing the language Sanskrit, that nashta means to destroy, won't be able to tell you what nashta, and also means scattered, and also means lost, right? You won't be able to interpret the meaning of that verse, because the same verse can be interpreted in so many different ways, right? So you need a guru to tell you which one is it, right? Like that. So am I sharing my screen with you? I am. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, good. So there's a very interesting thing, and let me just go and search and see if I have it here. I was playing around with it in the morning. Not this one. Yeah. So let's look at this. Where am I? Okay. Oh gosh, hold on for 1 second. I have some recording going on. I need to stop it. Okay. Just give me, sorry about that. Sure. Okay, let me know if you can see the screen here. So this is again, I don't know, today is Bhishmatama's day. So this is a word. Okay, thank you. So let me make it a little bit big, right? So Arjunasya ime bana, neme bana shikhandina naha, right? Shikandi naha. Chindandi mama gatrani maghamase gavamiva. Right? So Arjunasya, so this is Bhishma Pitama, he's saying, and this is the war that is going on. And then when Bhishma Pitama was killed and put on that bed of arrow, before that, who had climbed on the chariot of Arjuna?
Hanuman.
No. Hanuman was there. Hanuman was there right from the beginning on the flag, right? On the top of
yeah.
But I'm asking who had climbed?
Krishna.
Krishna was there from the beginning.
Was it Shikhandi?
Shikhandi, yes. Yeah. So that was the whole idea. Shikhandi was one of those Amba, Ambika, Ambalika sisters, right?
Yeah.
Whom Bhishma Pitama had wanted them to get married, right? And one of them, the Shikhandi in his previous birth, wanted to marry some other prince, and all the whole story, And in his previous birth, he said that I will kill you, Bhishma Pitama. Then he goes and says, Bhishma. So, okay, let me tell you that story. So Bhishma, I might not have the names right, but a sense is there. So Bhishma Pitama had in those days, the Kuru dynasty princes married their daughters from Banaras area, Kashi Raj's daughter. So Bhishma Pitamaha was a very valiant young man. So he was a brahmachari already. And so he went there and he took those three. He said, "We want your daughters have to be married, marry the three sons." And so he brought them. And so, one of them did not wanted to marry some other prince. And so she tells Bhishma Pitamaha that I want to marry that guy, so I can't marry. So Bhishma Pitamaha then says, "Okay, you go," drops her back. So she goes back to the prince, and the prince says, "No, I won't marry you because somebody else took you away." So she comes back. Now nobody's going to marry her. So she comes back and she says to Bhishma Pitamaha, "Now you marry me because you brought me and you created all this situation." So he says, "I can't marry you because I'm a brahmachari. I have made a promise that I won't marry." So she goes and commits suicide and she says, I'll kill you in my next birth. So in the next birth, she gets born as Shikhandi. And Shikhandi is whose sister? Shikhandi's sister is who?
Gandhari.
Gandhari, yeah, Draupadi. Right? So then what happens is that Shikhandi comes and climbs on the chariot of Arjuna. And so Arjuna was valiant, but Bhishma Pitamaha was more valiant than him. So this happens when there's a guru and a disciple. Disciple will not get everything that the guru has. So there is a diminution. It's always happening there. Similarly, Dronacharya was better than Arjuna because he would not give all the military secrets to the Shish. Can't absorb everything that the guru has. So Shikhandi so Arjuna is about to lose, and then Shikhandi climbs on the chariot, and Shikhandi also tries to put the arrows. And then Bhishma Pitamaha says that Shikhandi is a half man, half woman, right? So he will not attack a woman. So then he stops attacking, and that's how then Arjuna is able to take over. So, but when these arrows are coming, so Arjuna is also throwing arrows, and then Shikhandi is also throwing arrows. So at that point in time, Bhishma Pitamaha is saying this, the verse that I'm sharing here with you. So he says, Arjunasya ime bana. So he's saying that these banas that Arjuna is throwing at me, neme bana shikhandinaha. So these are arrows. So when something comes and pinches him, he's saying, "Oh, these are arrows of Arjuna." And, they can't be arrows of Shikhandi because she's useless, very feeble. And her arrows also will not get. Chindanti mama gatrani. So these arrows that appears in my limbs are actually arrows coming from Arjuna. They are not arrows coming from Shikhandi. Just like the cow. Magh Mase, Magh, month of Magh, right? January, February. Magh Mase Gavam Iva, right? So Magh Mase, and this is the right. This is how this word will be split, right? So Magh Mase, anybody knowing Sanskrit? So Magh Mase, in the month of Magha, Gavam Iva, like the cows. So if you look at these words, you can't make head and tail out of it. Right? You're saying, okay, these arrows that are coming and piercing my body are coming from Arjuna and are not coming from Shikhandi, just like the cows in the month of Magha. So just applying the rules of Sanskrit is not going to help us here. We need somebody to explain this to us, right? So then, there are other interpretation to this Magham, right? So then this also means that Magha Mase, in the month of Magha, in the month of January, February, Gavam, there's another meaning of Gavam is sun rays. So just as the sun rays in the month of January and February, even though they fall on our body, are useless because it's so cold, right? Sun is ineffective. So just like the rays of the sun are ineffective, similarly, these banas from Shikhandi are ineffective like the sun rays. So you see, the whole thing has to be explained by somebody coming from the disciplic succession. Now, there are other also, we come and bring another meaning to it, which is like, it's also got to do with how crab, a female crab. So according to our scriptures, I didn't find that in the scientific explanation for that, that when a crab gives birth, and I'm just thinking that maybe, there are 8,400,000 species of life, and our scriptures might refer to a species, and we might not know about that species, and we make some interpretations, and okay, oh, they are describing this, it must be the crab. It could be something similar to a crab, right? So according to the Shastras, when the mother crab, when she gives birth, then the children actually tear her abdomen and they come out. So the mother dies in the process, like that, right? So so then he's just really describing the banas coming from Arjuna. So the arrows coming from Arjuna are that painful as if, just when the mothers, feels the pain, or, just as the children themselves kill the child of a crab kills the mother. Similarly, Arjun, who's my grandson, is killing me, So people have to come and explain the meaning of these verses to you. And that is why.
Can I see this, please, down at the bottom?
Sorry, Mataji.
Can you just please raise this? I want to see that. Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. So it's very, very important to understand, the disciplic succession that comes over there, right? So in today's words, Krishna is talking about evam parampara praptam evam raja rishya vidhu. Raja rishi. What did we say about raja rishi? What is raja rishi? You explain that.
Please for kings.
King who is a rishi.
How did Prabhupada translate saintly kings?
Saintly,
right? Saintly kings, right? So here's the interesting thing. Here's an interesting thing to note about, a couple of interesting things about this particular word. And that is that in the previous verse, Krishna told that imam vivasvate, right? I had told this to Vivashwan. And then Vivashwan told it to Manu. And the Manu told it to Ishkuvaku, right? So there's a disciplic succession there, so you should learn it from him. You should learn through the disciplic succession. But then why is Krishna telling it to Arjun? Right? They're Raj Rishis. He could just learn from any of those Raj Rishis, right? So he will explain that. But let little bit on the word Raj Rishi first. So Raj is
King.
And Rishi is
saint.
Okay, right? And then a saintly king, right? So let's take the word saintly king. So what is saintly?
Rishi.
In Sanskrit?
Rishi.
Okay, and what is king?
Raj.
Then should it be
Rishi Raj.
Rishi Raj or Raj Rishi? Right? So what's the word that has to be used? So we have to go inside and understand, right? So evam Raja Rishyo Viduhu. Krishna is saying Raja Rishyo. So emphasis is on the Raj part of it. That they are kings. They are kings first. They are kings first. And then they are also rishis. And there's a difference between the two of them. There are rishis. If you're a rishi, you won't want to be a king. You want to be a rishi. But these are kings who are endowed with the spiritual knowledge. And what will the kings do? It is their duty. It is their duty to make sure that this knowledge gets imparted to others. Okay. And how they're going to impart that knowledge could be different. So knowledge, the spiritual knowledge that gets imparted will depend also on your occupation, your situation in life, right? So if a king is imparting the spiritual knowledge to the prince, he will again say that there is soul. So some of the basics will remain the same. He'll say everybody is a soul, right? But he'll also be talking to him about how to administer the kingdom, keeping Bhagavad-gita in picture and purview, because Bhagavad-gita is the manual of one's life. Right? Similarly, when a priest is teaching the Bhagavad-gita to his son, then he might teach it in a different way. He won't be emphasizing or giving examples from administration on how you apply Bhagavad-gita in his life. He might just talk about how you apply Bhagavad-gita in his day-to-day activities, right? So Raj Rishi is very, very important, that the term that he has used over there, right? That they are kings. Okay. And then comes the fact that he said that there is disciplic succession. He's asking us to learn from that. And then, so why is he then saying that I'm going to tell you, right? He then speaks the Bhagavad-gita the whole time, right? For 45 minutes, he's telling all that, right? And the reason is that although we said this is avyayam, but kalena mahatam,
It was lost.
It was lost, right? So we have to understand this, that this will get lost. Right? And the important thing is that if it has got lost, if it's got messed up, then there's no point reading and following that particular disciplic succession that it is coming from, right? So it has been lost. And we know that Krishna says in Bhagavad-gita, yada yada hi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata abhyutanam adharmasya tadatmanam srijyamyaham. I will come again whenever there is a loss in decline in religiosity. And why will there be a decline in religiosity? Because this is lost, right? It gets lost over a period of time. So then the question is that, so does it really get lost? So point to be noted over here, it doesn't get destroyed. Like one theory can be destroyed by another theory. And we see that all the time in the science, right? Happening. Somebody comes up with this theory, and then next year, and then does some experimentation, and they are like, no, whatever we did over there was wrong. This is actually the right one. So that's how it goes, right? But this one, he's just saying that this gets covered. If something gets covered, it doesn't mean that they don't exist, right? Like that, right? For example, Prabhupada always gives this example that in the night, there is no sun. Or when the sun sets, what exactly is the setting of the sun? Is the sun destroyed? No. If the sun is there, or when the clouds come and cover it, is the sun destroyed? No, it's just that you are not able to see. So why does it get destroyed? Why does it get lost? Because this is spiritual knowledge, and it is acquired from the descending process, from up to down. It cannot be understood by our own endeavors. So I cannot say that I will become a Sanskrit scholar. I will learn the Sanskrit language, and then I'll be able to understand everything from the Bhagavad-gita. So this is not to be, so you need to get the grace of the Lord or the grace of a bhakta to be able to understand Bhagavad-gita. You need to have the adhikar or the entitlement to be able to read the Bhagavad-gita. That is why, even today, the Bhagavad-gita is lost to some people. It's there on the internet, vedabase.com, for everybody for free. But is it there? Does everybody read Bhagavad-gita? No, they don't, right? Because they don't have the entitlement. So even when things are out there, so it's quite common for Shastras and for books to disappear. And a common example that you can see is that from the Brahma Samhita, we only have the 5th chapter now. There were 100 chapters in Brahma Samhita. And you remember we started reading it and gave up?
Yeah.
Right? See, we had to give it up till we get to that level that we'll be able to read it and understand it. Again, it'll appear. So that's what Krishna is saying, that, I have to come back and say to you over and over again, right? So we have to understand that how wisely Prabhupada has translated the word nashta. He's not said destroyed. So Prabhupada, that's why says, you read my book scrutinizingly, reading each and every word from that book in a nice manner, So now here's the question that in this verse, I'm just going back to the verse, evam parampara praptam, right? So there's a word parampara, disciplic succession, right? Now the word parampara, what does param mean?
Param is
the top.
previous.
Top or greatest, right? Parampara, right? Param. And what is para?
Para is
The other. Para is the other.
Okay, Parashakti and Aparashakti. Para is?
Beyond.
Yeah, beyond. Yeah, so beyond the material, transcendental. Right? So param and par, para. And then so our teachers, they break down this word into 3 pieces: param, par, and a. So param is shresht, the best, right? And par is knowledge, and a. What does a mean? So now when we have been reading the Sanskrit, we said that, okay, if a is used in front of an adjective, it changes the meaning, opposite, right? Para and apara, right? So that, right? Sometimes in the context of a verb, if there's a verb and you add the a in front of it, then it becomes the past tense, right? Bravid and Abravid. In the previous verse, we read that, right? Ishvake, Manave Ishvake Abravid. Abravid means said in the past, right? So Bravid and Abravid is like that, right? So whenever we add an A, that's another meaning. Another meaning of the word A or the is close. Close, right? Close or face to face. So now you notice that we have the Vedas, and then the Vedas are broken down into sections. So certain parts of the Vedas you read as a brahmachari, certain sections you will read when you are a grahastha, and then you read some as a vanaprastha. So when you are in the vanaprastha state, then the parts of Veda that you read are the Upanishads. So Vaisheshika Prabhu explains us about Upanishad, like Upanishad is to sit up close. So whenever you are learning something from the spiritual master, you will be sitting up close and face to face, right? And with rapt attention, you will be listening to what the spiritual master is saying, right? And also hear everything that is poured into your ears, right? We have always read about the glories of when you talk about the glories of the holy name, it says Tunde Tandamini Vitanate, that very famous verse from Rupa Goswami's writings of Vidartha Madhav. So he says that when the holy names pierce or enter from the holes on my ear and then they go to my heart. So this is the way the traffic is supposed to be when you are learning or hearing from the Guru Maharaj. Remember, these are two holes and they are unlimited holes. You can hear unlimitedly. If you're putting things through your mouth, there's a limit to how much you can put in this direction. You keep on putting, after some time you'll say, no mas, cannot take anymore, cannot eat, because the stomach has a capacity. But your heart and your ears have no capacity. You can hear to as much of Krishna Katha as you like. But as long as, and the effect of that will be if the traffic is going in this direction towards your heart, right? But these are two holes. Traffic can also go in this direction. Right? So well, this we do when people are insulting, people are being rude, people are being lousy, then that's fine. We let it go like that. But Krishna Katha, it has to go like this. Right? So you have to be the gatekeeper to make sure that nothing goes out. The Guru is speaking and things have to go inside like that, right? So evam parampara. So param and para we know is transcendental knowledge, right? Means you will be sitting face to face or you'll be sitting close, right? Now, when you are sitting close to somebody, you can learn anything, right? For example, you are sitting on a train from Pune and you're going to Bombay, and you happen to be sitting next to some person. What are the things that you can learn from that person? You get to know. Or you're sitting on a plane and somebody's sitting next to you on the chair, on the seat in an aeroplane.
Whatever they talk. Yeah,
tell me. Yeah, don't be afraid. Tell me.
You can learn some of the mannerisms in a long
You learn some of the mannerisms. Yeah. You might learn about politics, what's happening, what the chief minister is doing, what the prime minister is doing, their political views. They can tell you how to invest money and become a millionaire overnight. They can talk about the teenagers. You can learn about anything, right? Anybody can tell you anything.
Talk about spiritual too.
Yeah. They can talk about spiritual too. If you happen to be next to Varshana Mataji and she's traveling in a train, you'll get a Bhagavad-gita from her. So
you hear them.
Yeah. So just when so parampara, so when you are sitting somebody and listening to somebody, you could be listening to gossip through the 2 years and it can go to your heart, right? So here parampara is that you are hearing from Shresht, great people, param, right? So then who are the great people? Who's great? Akbar the Great. You heard Akbar the Great. Was Akbar great? Did he know the Vedas?
Who has the spiritual knowledge? They are the great.
No, he went around killing people.
No, but great means who has spiritual knowledge and then who has more knowledge. They are the great people, not
The realized people, those who have the experience, the transcendental knowledge, are great in my opinion. Like you see, when Guru Maharaj Ji is sitting and he is giving the lecture, so I feel that he is a realized person already, because he has gone through that path, and that he has understood what it is. So I will get the knowledge from him, and since he is from Parampara, he will give me the right direction. So he is a great for me. Srila Prabhupada is great for me. My Shiksha Gurus are great for me because they are directing me correctly.
Right. So you're saying they are directing correctly, and you're talking about their knowledge, and you have, and you are comparing them to yourself, right? And so you're saying they have more knowledge than I am. They have less knowledge than what I have, right? Now, here's the interesting thing. A part of your answer is right. A large part of it, Varshana Mataji, a small tweak here. That when you say that this person is a Shresht person, right? A great person. The great person receives knowledge from a person greater than him. Like you said, he is Prabhupada's disciple, right? So he learned from somebody who was greater than him. Srila Prabhupada, like that, right? Prabhupada heard something who was greater than him, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, like that, right? The Guru is always greater than you. So the important thing is that they should have got that knowledge from somebody greater than them, and not, you can also acquire knowledge through mental speculation. You can sit down, you can rake your brains, you can come up with a mathematical formula, right? And you can interpret. For example, for those of you who understand chemistry, I've forgotten a lot of the chemistry, but I know that when we were using, when we were learning organic chemistry, organic chemistry basically was majorly dealing with carbon and hydrogen atoms and how they were placed inside the molecule. And depending on their placements and the counts, different kinds of materials will be there, right? So there was one which is benzene, which is very, very famous, benzene, because it's got a very nice structure, hexagonal structure like that. And so there was this German scientist or French scientist, I'm forgetting, but he could not figure out, what is going on here? What is going on here? What is the structure of this substance? And so he went to sleep, and in his sleep, he sees a snake that is biting its tail. And the snake was biting its own tail, so it became like a circle. And then it was, because of biting of the tail, it was moving around like this. And then he woke up, and then he got this, and he said, okay, this is how the structure of benzene is, 6 atoms of carbon, position in a hexagonal like that. So you can rake your brains like that, interpret using your own intellect. Nobody came and told him that this is how benzene is structured, right? So that is not great. Great is that you should have heard it from somebody greater than you. That is why Krishna is saying, I have told this. I have told this to, who did he tell it to first?
Sun God.
Vivashwan, right? I have told this. So it is coming from, so Vivashwan has learned it from somebody greater than him, right? And Manu is learning it. Manu is from the mankind, right? Father of mankind. He's hearing it from Sun God, who is a demigod, right? But Manu, was owning not only the planet Earth, he was owning, a lot of parts of the universe. And then Ishwake, the king of the planet Earth, right? So Ishwaku is hearing it from somebody who's senior to him and more exalted and more knowledgeable than him. So what makes you Shresht is the fact that you've learned it from a person who is at a higher position. And then not just learning it makes you, you have to apply it, right? And so it was very interesting thing. So you have to apply it. It was very interesting thing that Varshana Mataji said, that when I sit in front of my spiritual master, I'm able to understand it because he has realized it. What's going on here? Like, he realizing something, well, why does it have an effect on you? So a Shresht person is also one who is able to make and bring a change in you, right? Impact. And how will somebody be able to make a change in you, right? For example, I knew of a person 10 years ago from here, and he was liaising with a lady in Switzerland, and both of them were writing a book. on God. And he gave me as a gift his manuscript. And I read the manuscript, a few chapters. I was so confused reading that. It was very complex, very complicated theories. And I just left it. I said, I'm happy with Prabhupada's Bhagavad-gita. I don't have to read this. And then his book was published. And so after the book is published, the authors go on a tour, right? From place to place talking about the books. And they also go to bookstores. So his book was being sold in Barnes and Noble. And this is 10, 12 years ago. 12, I think, 13, 14 years ago. So he invited me to his book opening and he said, come there. So I went and I sat in the class and so then that's when I heard the rest of the book. And so they were like this theory and that theory. And then in the end they said, and yes, and so we conclude that we are God. I was shocked and I was too polite to get up and leave. I said, I don't know how you came to this conclusion. And then, of course, there were some people sitting and nodding their head. There was one guy from India, I don't know, bless him. But he stood up and said, so all this that you have written in this book, have you realized it yourself? That's why you're writing it. And then they said, no, we haven't realized it. And that's it. I said, no, I can get up and leave. So it is important that the person, the Shresht, is one who has realized that knowledge also. And they also have undergone, and to realize that knowledge, that you have to go through it and make it a part of your life. That's why we say that Bhagavad-gita is a manual of life. And that is why you see that sometimes you go to some speakers and they are they say one word and they're able to affect your life, and you are willing to change and make all the changes in life, right? And then there are some, I mean, you sit there, you listen, but nothing, right? Nothing happens to us, right? So when people are speaking from the tongue, when people are speaking from the tongue, the words only reach your ears. So like this, from somebody else's tongue, they come here and they go out like that. But when a person is speaking from realized knowledge, when the knowledge is realized, when they're actually following what they are telling you, when they're actually following that, then their words, because they are speaking from the heart, their words will reach your heart. And that is why the words are going to make a change in you. Because then you have a heart-to-heart connection. So,
Mataji, another thing comes here, what you said is that you have a faith in a person when you are listening to somebody, that this person is a realized soul and knows it, and he is going to, you have a faith, he is going to tell me the right thing. So when that faith comes, that also, Mataji, leaves an impact on you.
Right. And how do you have faith? Why do you have faith?
Because of experience, because of the previous experience with the person.
Because you're observing that person. You're observing that person that, okay, he came and said this thing today and in the class, and you found him doing and practicing the same thing. And that's what Prabhupada says, Acharya. Acharya is a person who teaches through his example. He just doesn't come and do research transcontinental and then come up in Barnes and Noble and come up with complex theories. You see them living that in their lives. Yes. So a Shresht person is a person who has heard it from somebody superior to him, right? Is not using his material intellect to come up with theories, because they could be flawed. 4 defects are there, right? In us, they could be flawed. And when he follows it in his life, applies it in his life. And then when he's transmitting that information, then he will transmit it. I'm looking for 3 words. He will transmit it. Famous 3 words with transmission. 3 words. He will transmit it as
it is.
It is. Right? This is very important. And this is how the parampara goes. Chaitanya Charan Prabhu, he says a very interesting thing, in a very strong manner he's put it. He says that parampara is not a Xerox machine. It's not that the teacher told you something, you copied it, and like a parrot, you just go and tell it out, right? Parampara is when you got that information, you took it to your heart. And when you take things to your heart, you do it. Right? When your heart is not in something, you won't do it. So you take it to your, or sometimes even if you have to do something when your heart is not in it and you're forced to do it, when you tell it to somebody else, how much of heart are you going to put in that? Right? Yeah, sometimes it happens. Maybe it'll happen, right? But if I put your heart in, oh, go, this is really very good, right? So when you are there, when you assimilate that information, when you get that knowledge, then there is that experience, and from that experience develops an overflow, right? And there's an overflow of good knowledge that you got, and now you're going to distribute it. Like, because I always want to distribute good knowledge, right? It's very interesting that I was observing this. My granddaughter, so she had a chance to eat prasadam rasmalai for the first time. So when she had that opportunity to eat prasadam rasmalai for the first time, so my daughter sent a video of her eating it, right? So she's eating and, oh, I love rasmalai, I love this. You know how kids will do, she's doing all that, right? In one snip, she's doing that. In the second one, you see her, she's just eating. A drop, also she's licking it. She's like completely into it, assimilating the goodness of rasmalai, right? And then she turns her head to her mom and she says, you know what? I'm going to cook rasmalai. And her mom says, yeah, how are you going to do it? And then like, oh, here's the sauce. And I'm going to put it I'm going to take a spoon. I'm going to put it in a bowl. And you are going to eat it. So you see, discipling succession, the goodness of rasmalai. Your mom, you go and experience it now. So when it was overflowing, the goodness of rasmalai is overflowing. Now I want to cook it. Now I want to distribute it, give it to others.
So, Shraddha Mataji, that comes to mind, right? Tat vidhi pranipatena.
Very nice. Yes, very nice. So, and a very, so Shresht, you're talking about the Shresht, right? So here we are talking about Shresht Guru. Who is a Shresht Guru? It has to be a bona fide Guru. Yeah. Good fight. So we said bona fide Guru first has heard it from a higher person. Number 2, assimilates it in his life. And number 3, goes forward and propagates it as it is, right? And that is a very important part, that if you do not do it as it is, then knowledge will be destroyed or lost. How do you go and do that, right?
Scattered.
Right. So then also, so this is one thing we're talking about, how it gets it gets lost, right? So that is one. And then a very apt point that you brought, that it'll get lost if it is not transmitted, right, properly. But then it also has got to be received properly. Like how a small child can go open a tap and wants to collect water in a glass. So they open the tap and the water is here. The tumbler is here, tumbler is there. It's not catching the water nicely, right? So your receptacles also have to receive that information and take it into the heart. The disciple also has to take it all into the heart. And the 2 classic examples that I can tell you of a good combination of proper knowledge transfer is one, which is in Srimad Bhagavatam. And it says that the teacher was Sukadeva Goswami, bona fide. And the disciple was, or the student was
Parikshit
Maharaj Parikshit, right? And the content, the topic was not, what is the cost of potatoes? Why have onions disappeared from the market? What should I use, jalapenos or should I use green chilies? That's not the topic they were discussing, right? The topic also was bona fide. And there was a complete transmission of information there from the teacher to the student. And others also. Sukadeva Goswami was also there. And then he goes and narrates it further later on. So you also need to have a bona fide student. And then when it comes to bona fide student, we take the verse that Sukomal Radhe Mataji said, that Tadvidhi paripatina pariprashnena sevaya upadeshyanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshinaha.
Submissively.
Yes, you have to inquire. For number one, you have to be submissive and you have to inquire. Sometimes you don't ask questions. How will you get the answer? You have to ask questions. Srimad Bhagavatam is full of questions.
Yeah.
You look at the birds in the morning, immediately they get up in the morning, they start talking. They're asking questions. Where should we go? Where do you think? Do you think this berry is good enough to eat? Yeah. 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 Somebody also said that, why do the birds make so much of noise when they are just about to fly off from the trees? They're like, oh, the mothers are all shouting to the kids and they're saying, did you go to the bathroom? You're out to go for hunting food. So the birds can be talking about anything under the sun like that. So you have to ask questions. In fact, quite often in our work, there are, sometimes things go wrong. Something bad happens while you were installing software or developing software. A defect is, didn't work properly. Or if you're a doctor, why did the patient die? So we go back and we do what is known as root cause analysis. We have to find out the root cause. And one of the things that they say there is, so there are different ways in which you will do the analysis to find out the root cause of anything. And one of the ways that they do is known as a 5 why analysis. Why means asking the question why. And the 5 why analysis says that, if you keep on asking the question 5 times, you usually get the reason for something. And then once you get the reason for something, then you're able to fix it. For example, if somebody says that somebody's late or something did not get done at work. Why did it not get done? Well, Bob was late. The first why is answered, right? Why was Bob late? His alarm didn't go on. Why did the alarm not go on? He had set the alarm, but the batteries were bad, were drained down. Okay. So why did like that, they will keep on going and then come to a solution. Maybe we want to have self-charging batteries. Maybe we want to have this. Maybe we want to have an indicator on the clock to indicate. So they will come up with reasons and 5 why analysis. So similarly, a student also has to ask the question. But the thing is that you should ask questions which make sense, right? Prabhupada, have you seen Indra? Is not a good question that's going to benefit you spiritually, right? You have to ask the right question and in the right way, humility. That will give. And then what does it say? Upadeshyanti te jnanam jnanina tattvadarshina. So they'll say, then they please buy your services. Then they will updeshyanti. They will give you. Who's going to give you? Jnanina. What are they going to give you? Tattvadarshina. Tattva is truth. Darshina, seen, because they have seen
realized it.
So it's very, very important that this information that is being transmitted should come in the realized manner from a realized person. Otherwise, Bhagavad-gita is a book. And what does Prabhupada say in the last verse of his purport? He says that Bhagavad-gita accepted as it is a great boon for humanity. It's very, very important that you have to take it as it is. If you doubt the teacher itself, you don't have faith in the teacher, which Rachana again brought that word today, that if you don't have faith in the teacher, then there's no point, right? So don't think of Bhagavad Gita like that. Right? And Prabhupada used to say that, like, hey guys, if you want to write a book, you write a book. So to that friend from 12 years ago, if you want to write a book, write a book. If you want to make money selling books on Barnes and Noble, go ahead, write some fiction. Don't try to address these things and say, we conclude that we are God. Right? Number one. Number two, when you are trying to explain the Bhagavad Gita also to people, keep that in mind, that these are words spoken by Krishna and you are just relaying that information to others. Have that thing in your mind. It's coming from Shraddha, Param Shraddha, Krishna, the best of the best. It's coming from there. Like that. That's only what is going to make you a proper and a Shraddha guru. right? And you transmit it as it is without doing your own mental speculation and your mundane wrangling. So you have to take Bhagavad Gita as it is, then it is a womb to humanity. And if it is accepted as a treatise of philosophical speculations, well, this is what it is. Yeah, if you're just thinking philosophical speculation, that's what happens, right? I mean, I used to work for a corporate company, corporate organization, and there were classes being held in the boardrooms during lunchtime, and people would come and each would sit down and try to interpret and give their own explanation of the verse, and they would fight on that. So that's not what it is. It is not meant for your, it's not something on one subject and then the soul, and then you now try to interpret this and conclude that soul, there's no difference between soul and God, and QED, as we used to write in geometry classes. No. Right? So that mood has got to be different in which you are learning. Don't try to put in your, erroneous statements into it. That is a proper parampara that comes. So Prabhupada is saying that, it is not a treatise like that, right? So going back to the question that why does it get lost in, right? So then he's saying that one is, it has not coming, it is not realized, right? People have to realize that they have to do practice. So Komal Radhe Mataji, what does your son practice?
Internal medicine.
Medicine. So you see, the doctors have to practice. They have to do. Without practice, you cannot, propagate it further like that. So practice is very, very important, for us to retain it, right? And if you do not apply it, for example, a surgeon, he's taught how to operate. He doesn't do any operations for 10 years. Can he operate? No, he has to perform those operations over and over again, right? As ladies, at least in my time, we used to knit sweaters, we used to do knitting. I don't think the girls of nowadays do any knitting. Everything is ready-made and nobody has the time to do that. But anyway, there were certain times, there were some very difficult patterns and you learned it. And as you were making and stitching the sleeves and the chest and the back of the sweater, you knew the pattern and it came very easy. Why? Assimilating it, practicing it, right? And then, 5 years later, you're looking at the sweater and like, what was it? How many knits and how many purls? What did I do with this line, that line, like that, right? Ulta Sida, what it was, right? So so practicing also is very, very important for us to keep this information there. And so why does it get lost? Because of all these things, and also because of wrong interpretation that people will do to suit their own needs. To make some money, they will twist the Bhagavad Gita to please the audience who is paying the money or just giving them name and fame. So people are going to do that like that, right? So this is something very, very important. And then people, in the beginning of the Bhagavad Gita also, Prabhupada says that, you have to, Bhagavad Gita you will understand when you have faith. You have to start with faith as a factor, as a very prime and an important factor. And then, so Prabhupada is being humble and he'll just say, have faith in Krishna, right? But we also have to have faith in Prabhupada, who's explaining it to us in the purports, right? For example, there is, in the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, there is Tadvidhi paripatena pariprashnena sevaya updeshyanti te jnanam. That is 434. It says, Na tad bhasyate suryo na shashanko na pavaka yad gatvana nivartante tad dhama paramam nama. So what does it say? That neither the sun nor the moon lighten up the planet where I live. Yad gatva na nivartante. Once you reach there, nobody comes back. Oh, so Prabhupada is a fallen soul because he's here. I don't believe in this Bhagavad Gita. I'm not going to read this Bhagavad Gita. I need it straight from Krishna. I want to hear straight from Krishna's mouth. Well, are you Arjuna? Are you ready to listen? If Krishna comes into your house and starts telling Bhagavad Gita, will you be able to listen with rapt attention for 45 minutes? And Arjuna lived the Bhagavad Gita because at the end of he said, Karishyami, right? I will do whatever, tava vacha, whatever you are saying, I will do it. He started living the Bhagavad-gita. And Krishna said, Nimitt mata bhava sabhisaching, you just be an instrument. This is already my wish that they should die. They happen to be our relatives. Like that, right? So we have to, and Vaisheshika Prabhu in the initiation lectures always talks about the disciplic succession, right? Initiation is, connecting to the disciplic succession. And he says that he gives a very nice example of a powerhouse. And he says it's like a guru is what? Guru is like the copper wire that connects you to the powerhouse, right? So like I'm sitting over here, there's a powerhouse somewhere, right? And from where electricity is being transmitted to my place. And every now and then you see some, there are some towers there. And then finally it comes to my place. But for me to get the power, I have to switch the switch on. I have to put it on. So similarly, for the disciple, right? For the disciple to get that knowledge, he has to switch it on. So we have to get ready. And when will the switch be on? The switch will be on when at the back of your head, there is a switch that says, I am something. You have to switch that off. Tad vidhi paripatena, right? That humility has to come. So switch off that ego switch that you have at the back of your head. Then you'll be able to, listen to what is coming to you from the parampara in the right mood, in the right spirit, right? And don't always like sometimes people say, oh, well, only Prabhupada can initiate. I want to be initiated by Prabhupada only. Well, it's the same as saying that, I want to connect my washing machine or my little grinder directly to the powerhouse. Do you even have that capacity to do that, right? So we have to understand that, things will come through us in a manner. Maybe if we were to sit with the sun god Vivashwan and listen to what Krishna was saying, we might just say, oh my goodness, I can't handle it. Because what he's telling to the sun god. We are not sun god. Like that. So we will be told things according to our capacity. Ekadashi, fast from grains. What is grain? Rice and wheat. And peas and dal, keeping it simple for you, right? So it's very, very important how a good and a Shresh teacher, how he also imparts that information. Now, from the Bhagavatam, there is a lot of teachings there. Of course, there's Sukadeva Goswami, right? But there's also one very famous person, very famous teacher who teaches all the time to different people. Who is that in Bhagavatam, those who read the Bhagavatam?
Maitreya?
Maitreya, yes, very good. And who did he teach?
Vidura?
Vidura, right? And then good.
Sutta Goswami.
Some Sutta Goswami, of course, yes. But somebody who is very famous for going here and there and teaching.
Narada Muni.
Narada Muni for 500 points, exactly. Right? So let's take an excerpt, but this is not from Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam has a very slight mention of him, of this episode, but it is described in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And since, Mahaprabhu's appearance day is coming, I just thought, we'll just take it from there, okay? So I'm going to start sharing the screen here, and let's see. This is Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela in chapter number 24, which is a very famous chapter on the explanations of the Atmarama verse, right? But I'm not going to go through the whole chapter. It's a chapter of 18,000 verses, but there somewhere around 220 we should have. So it's a bit of 320 verses, not 3,000, sorry. So let's go there. It's about 200 verses down. So that's the Atmarama Satyamuniyo. So it's about, the focus here is not on the Atmarama verse. In this class, I'm just focusing on a story. So he'd say, I shall now narrate the story of how a hunter became a great devotee by the association of such an exalted personality as Narad Muni. From this story, one can understand the greatness of association with pure devotees. Once upon a time, the great saint Narada, after visiting Lord Narayan in the Vaikunthas, went to Prayag to bathe in the confluence of the three rivers, the Ganges, the Yamuna, and the Saraswati. Narad Muni saw that the deer was lying on the path through the forest and that it was pierced by an arrow. It had broken legs and was twisting due to much pain. Further ahead, Narad Muni saw a boar pierced by an arrow. Its legs were also broken and it was twisting in pain. When it went farther, he saw a rabbit was also suffering. Narad Muni was greatly pained at heart to see living beings suffer so. When Narad Muni advanced further, he saw a hunter behind a tree. This hunter was holding arrows and he was ready to kill more animals. The hunter's body was blackish. He had reddish eyes and he appeared fierce. It was as if the superintendent of death, Yamraj, was standing there with a bow and arrows in his hands. When Narad Muni left the forest path and went to the hunter, all the animals immediately saw the hunter and fled. When all the animals fled, the hunter wanted to chastise Narada with abusive language, but due to Narada's presence, he could not utter anything abusive. The hunter addressed Narad Muni, O Goswami, O great saintly person, why have you left the general path through the forest to come to me? Simply by seeing you, all the animals I have hunting have now fled. Narad Muni replied, leaving the path, I have come to you to settle a doubt that is in my mind. I was wondering whether all the boars and other animals that are half killed belong to you. Narad Muni then inquired, why did you not kill the animals completely? Why did you half kill them by piercing their bodies with arrows? The hunter replied, my dear saintly person, my name is Mrigari. Mrig means animals and Ari means enemy. So I am Mrigari, enemy of animals. My father taught me to kill them in that way. When I see half-killed animals suffer, I feel great pleasure. Narad Muni then told the hunter, I have one thing to beg of you. I have many skins. If you would like them, I can give you either a deer skin or a tiger skin, said the hunter. Narad Muni said, I do not want any of the skins. I am asking only one thing from you in charity. I beg that from this day on, you will not kill animals completely and not leave them half dead. The hunter replied, my dear sir, why are you asking of me? What are you asking of me? What is wrong with animals lying there half killed? Will you please explain this to me? Narad Muni replied, if you leave the animals half dead, you are purposefully giving them pain. Therefore, you will have to suffer in retaliation. Narad Muni continued, my dear hunter, your business is killing animals. That is a slight offense on your part. But when you consciously give them unnecessary pain by leaving them half dead, you incur very great sins. Narad Muni continued, all the animals that you have killed and given unnecessary pain will kill you one after the other in your next life and in life after life. In this way, through the association of the great sage Narad Muni, the hunter was a little convinced of his sinful activity. He therefore became somewhat afraid due to his offenses. The hunter then admitted that he was convinced of his sinful activity, and he said, I have been taught this business from my very childhood. Now I'm wondering, how can I become freed from these unlimited volumes of sinful activity? The hunter continued, my dear sir, please tell me how I can be relieved from the reactions of my sinful life. Now I fully surrender unto you and fall down at your lotus feet. Please deliver me from sinful reactions. Narad Muni assured the hunter, if you listen to my instruction, I shall find the way you can be liberated. The hunter then said, my dear sir, whatever you say, I shall do. The hunter replied, if I break my bow, there's something here that, Narad Muni asked him to break his bow. The hunter replied, if I break my bow, how shall I maintain myself? Being thus assured by the great saints, Narad Muni, the hunter broke his bow, immediately fell down at the saint's lotus feet and fully surrendered. Because he had said that if you stop killing, then you will be relieved of your sinful activities. After this, Narad Muni raised him with his hand and gave him instructions for spiritual advancement. Narad Muni then advised the hunter, return home and distribute whatever riches you have to pure Brahmanas who know the absolute truth. After you have distributed all your riches to the Brahmanas, you and your wife should leave home, and each of you take only one cloth to wear. Nadmani continued, leave your home and go to the river. There you should construct a small cottage, and in front of the cottage you should throw a tulsi plant on a raised platform. After planting the tulsi tree before your house, you should daily circumambulate that tulsi plant, serving her by giving her water and other things, and continuously chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's why I say, Yani kani cha papani brahma hatya dikani cha tani tani prasyanti pradakshina pade pade. That's what he's asking him to do, because he had done a lot of killing, right? Nadmani continued, every day I shall send sufficient food to you both. You can take as much food as you want. The 3 animals that were half killed were then brought to their consciousness by the sage Narada. Indeed, the animals got up and swiftly fled. Do you remember who the 3 animals were that Narada saw?
The boar, a rabbit,
and the first one? A deer.
deer.
When the hunter saw the half-killed animals flee, he was certainly struck with wonder. He then offered his reciprocal obeisances to sage Narada and returned home. After all this, Narad Muni went to his destination. After the hunter returned home, he exactly followed the instructions of his spiritual master, Narada. The news that the hunter had become a Vaishnava spread all over the village. Indeed, all the villagers bought arms and presented them to the Vaishnava who had formerly been a hunter. In one day, enough food was brought for 10 or 20 people, but the hunter and his wife would accept only as much as they could eat. One day, while speaking to his friend Parvat Muni, Narad Muni requested him to go with him to see the disciple, the hunter. As the saintly sages approached the hunter's place, the hunter could see them from a distance. With great alacrity, the hunter began to run towards his spiritual master, but he could not fall down and offer obeisances because ants were running hither and thither around his feet. Seeing the ants, the hunter whisked them away with a piece of cloth. After thus clearing the ants from the ground, he fell down flat to offer his obeisances. Narad Muni said, my dear hunter, such a behavior is not at all astonishing. A man in devotional service is automatically non-violent. He is the best of gentlemen. So I'll stop over here and let's talk about, what were some of the teaching techniques that Narad Muni used in this story. He wanted the hunter to become a devotee of the Lord, right? But how did he approach?
He told him the reactions of what he has already done.
Right. So he did not start with accusing him and saying that, what are you doing, Prabhu? Here, you take this mala and then you just follow 4 regulative principles and then, you have no, like that, right? He didn't say that. Although that is what his ultimate goal was, to make him do that, right? So he started first by telling him just enough information so that the student will now be curious. And what did the student do? The student asked a question, right? So he told him this is what's going to happen. And then he said, how do I get out of it? So he realized. And he also noticed in the beginning in the chapter, it says that, he when Narad Muni came and the hunter was hiding behind. And so he, there was some ruffle and all the animals fled. And that made the hunter very angry because he was going to kill them. And he said he wanted to retaliate with abusive language and he could not do that. Why? That's the kind of power that a Shrestha has. The power that Narad Muni has, you can't abuse them. And instead he spoke nicely. And then Narad Muni gave him that knowledge. And then, he said, okay, this is all those things that you have got to do. And then he demonstrated. He played a little trick also, right? He brought all those animals back to life.
Yeah.
So he had Shraddha, faith, immediately in Narad Muni. And then later on, he said that, okay, we'll arrange food for you. Don't worry about the food. He gave him assurance. Kanteya pati jane hi name bhaktya pranashyati. Right? That you will get your food. And then, the rest happened. Asked him to bring the tulasi and then circumambulated and just chant Hare Krishna. That's it. And the effect was there for all of the others to see that this is what a real Shresht, parampara, a master from the parampara is. And we are happy that we are in that parampara. In the beginning of Bhagavad-gita, you see the whole parampara or the lineage is listed there. And Narad Muni is there. Over there. So we stick to the parampara from where we are learning it and whatever is meant for us there. But it does get lost. And the idea is that you pick it up. If it gets lost, you pick it up and with your heart in it. So that is the most important thing to keep in mind about that, right? So I will stop here with this. Anything else that you want to ask? We have a few minutes. Any thoughts, any reflections?
Hare Krishna, Mataji. May I ask a question, Mataji?
Yeah, sure.
Mataji, in Treta Yuga, in Dwapar Yuga, and in Kali Yuga, we have, you see, Lord appeared as Rama, then as Krishna, and now as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Who was in Satyuga?
Hari. He comes in the form of Hari.
And what was his color?
In different Satyugas, he will come in different colors also. So when you read Srimad Bhagavatam, sometimes you see that in this one he's red, so because they come cyclically. But Hari there is green, non-white in color, not green. Sometimes Ramchandra is supposed to be in green color, right? And sometimes blue, you also see blue. So there are different yugas, they come in different colors. It's a pastime, right? Always coming in same color, we'll be bored. Because we are also there experiencing yuga after yuga. Yeah.
Mataji, this sloka, you said that that Bhishma said, Arjuneya ime bana, name bana srikandi. So it was in, where was that sloka, Mataji?
I don't know. I was just reading some Sanskrit lesson or something like that and it appeared there. I don't know where it was. Could be from Mahabharata. I don't know. Or a sequel to that literature. I don't know.
I was writing, but those 2 lines I couldn't write from you. That's in an
Mataji, I'll send it to you. I took the screenshot.
Yeah.
God,
Please
that's
post it.
good,
There, yeah.
smart Masterji. I was trying to write, I couldn't write that fast.
Yeah.
That was very good, that the sloka was very good. Thank you very much.
Yeah. You remember there was also one verse that I did a few months ago, or almost, I don't know how long ago now, time flies so fast. Keshavam patitam drishtva Pandava harsha nirbhara rudanti kaurava sarve ha Keshava. Right? So it is like when Keshav patitam drishtva. So to see Keshav falling down, to see Krishna falling down, Pandava harsha nirbhara. The Pandavas were full of joy. Rudanti kaurava sarve. All the Kauravas started crying. Ha Keshav, ha Keshav. It's like, come on, what is this going on here? Right? We know from reading from Mahabharata and all the scripture that it was other way around, right?
It's the opposite,
It's the opposite, right? And if Keshav falls down, number one, Krishna never fell down, right? In the Mahabharata, so what is it going on? And then, so these kind of verses are known as kutil verses. They're cunning. They're meant to tease your intellect, right? Like that. So you'll say like, oh, what's going on? Like, no. I meant this. And what do you meant? Well, Keshav also means, K means water and Shav means dead body. So Keshav Patitam means to see, Patitam Drishtva. Drishtva means to seeing a dead body falling into the water. Pandava Harsha Nirbhara. Pandava, another meaning of Pandava is fish. So the fishes were very happy seeing a dead body fall into the water. And Rudanti Kaurava Sarve. So Kaurava started crying. What is another meaning for Kaurava? The crows. The crows started crying because they can't go into the water and eat the dead body. Ha Keshava. Oh Keshav. They are crying like that, right? So you need interpretation.
Where is that sloka from? Which?
I don't know.
That sloka too. I want that sloka too. That's very good one. That's very good to know.
Excellent class today, Shraddha Mataji. So
nice things
all nice things. They come from the parampara.
Yeah, but right now they are coming from your mouth.
Shrestha Guru.
Whatever I heard. Yes, definitely. I've heard from people who are definitely Shrestha. No doubt about that. Yeah. But the idea is to authentically repeat. And that's why, we don't, when we go and teach the class, we don't feel anything bad about repeating what Prabhupada said, because that's the way it should be. We don't have to twist and add any angles. It's okay for us to say, Prabhupada said this. Prabhupada said that, right? And that is a true disciple. That is a true disciple and a true student who will listen and learn. Now, Bhagavad-gita, Krishna spoke to Arjuna, right? At the same time, somebody else was also speaking. Who was speaking? To whom?
Sanjay was speaking.
Sanjay.
Sanjay was speaking to Dhritarashtra, right? Now here's such an interesting thing that how you can interpret. So now you have to read things properly and hear things properly, right? So the whole narration, Dhritarashtra has also heard it, right?
Mm.
And what does the last verse of Bhagavad Gita say? Last verse of Bhagavad Gita, what does it say? Yatra Yogeshwar Krishna, Yatra
Pado Dhanudhara.
Dhanudhara.
Tatra Sri Vijaya Bhuti Dhruvanitir Bhatir Mama.
Mama, Tatra Sri Vijaya Bhutir. So we're saying wherever there is Krishna and wherever there is Arjuna, right? There is Sri Vijaya Bhutir, Dhruvanitir Madhana. Do not doubt, it's going to happen, right? And still after that, even after hearing that, what is Dhritarashtra thinking?
How are my sons doing?
His son will be victorious.
Victorious.
He had that hope, right? Every time during the whole war, he was asking, right? Like the son will be victorious. So this is hearing. Two people heard it at the same time, 45 minutes, right? So it is something, Bhagavad is something that has to be assimilated in your heart. So don't feel bad if you don't know Sanskrit, if you are not able to memorize the verses. Somebody might be able to memorize more verses. Somebody might be. So Krishna gives all that to you. Krishna will give that. When Krishna thinks that you are ready and you are knowing the verses is important, Sarvasya chaham hridhi sannivishta matta smritir jnanam apohanam cha. So he will give you the remembrance. That remembrance will come from within, from Krishna. You will be able to memorize verses. In the beginning,
I'm waiting for the day, Mat.
Yeah. If you are not able to do it, that's fine. That's not the purpose. You just gather the essence of Bhagavad Gita and live Bhagavad Gita. It's a manual for life.
I'm waiting for the day when Krishna will give me that memory.
It'll come to you through disciplic succession.
Yes. You know, what, in the evening, again, you're saying that in asking questions is very good. In morning, I attended Bhagavatam class and 7:50 in the morning in our time. But, asking questions, I try to ask something, 20 people will come. They will have different questions. I'll stop there. So we cannot clash, with everybody. But sometimes, I'm not there to ask questions. I don't know why that thing is coming. And Krishna has to give me mercy.
You can ask for that mercy.
I'm asking every day.
Yeah. That always ask the right questions. Yeah.
Some slokas I remember very, very nicely.
Yeah, so, I remember when I was in school and I was educated in a Christian school. So there were fathers. So there was one day a father came, and it was a very nice thing that he did. He put us through 8 hours of moral rearmament, one full day dedicated. And it was my last year at school. And he said that, you feel good because in life you might not be able to get 8 hours away and just focus on God. And later on in life, I realized how true it was. Till I came into Krishna consciousness, here ISKCON, now ISKCON, you can spend, 20 hours in the temple. But at that time, even for me to get out for 8 hours and focus on Krishna was very, very difficult. And so he was asking questions, and ended the question. He said, okay, students, you can put your questions in a slip. If you're afraid of asking questions, write your question on a slip of paper and put it in this, and I'll pick up and I'll answer a few of them. So one question he picked up, the very first question, and the question was, can God build a wall so tall that he cannot climb?
No.
What sort of a question is that? What sort of a question is that, right? But our Shastras have an answer to that question also, right? Because Krishna himself is expanding all the time. So if Krishna has a wall over here, he has built a wall, he can build a wall that he cannot climb. But then the next second, he will expand and now he'll be able to climb the wall. So both the definitions of Krishna are satisfied, that Krishna can climb all the walls and Krishna can also create a wall that he cannot climb. That is, our philosophy that explains it so very nicely, like that. Vaishana Mataji, is there an old raised hand or a new raised hand?
No, Mataji, I just now raised it. Mataji, which shlokas are we going to take up for recitation now?
We decided. Oh, you were not there. You were sick, right?
Yeah.
So the team said, it was not my decision. The team said they want to go right from the beginning of Bhagavad Gita and do from chapter 1 onwards, which is kind of good. And why I think this is good is because we have been reading 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And then during the Sunday classes, some of the verses will get reinforced. because we went through this. Like last 2 years we started, right? From 1, 2, 3, 4.
Is it in that complex of smart and final?
Meera Mataji, Dandavat Pranams.
Dandavat Pranam Mataji. I was late today, very late.
No problems. Thank you.
Actually, I was wondering someday when it's convenient, I always wanted to know if I have to leave some instructions for my daughter when I die about doing my funeral. Like I know when my brother passed away or when my sister passed away, we did a funeral, we thought like that Indian style, but with ISKCON, is there something different we do? How do we find the Pandit, and what would you do? Like what would I leave my daughter, the instruction, if I were to dead, how to do the funeral?
Well, in USA things are different. I think you just go through the electrical crematorium if you're not being buried. Yeah. And there are crematoriums there. No,
that one, I'll be cremated. That's not a question. But the process of which the puja, what to do, is it the way?
I can put you in touch. Yeah, I can put you in touch with one of the priests that we have. Right, and they can tell you more. Yeah, because I don't know about the rituals part of it. Definitely there would be some prayers. I mean, normally till as much as I have followed the Vaishnavas leaving their bodies, one of the instructions that we should give our kids is that, because we don't know in what state we will be, right, when we die, very sick or not. Right. So normally we make sure that the garland is there, Prabhupada is there, Prabhupada music is flowing, right?
Yeah.
Is the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is chanted, and Ganga Jal is there, and they put some tulsi leaf there, right?
Oh, okay.
Because when they open the mouth and they put a tulsi leaf like that. Yeah, we will do that. However, having said all that, Krishna takes care of his devotees. Yeah.
Because when my brother passed away, a long time friend whom I haven't been in touch with, but he got in touch with me. This was even before when he got the message, he got in touch with me. So he was in Vrindavan. He kind of told me to play the Mahamantra all the time, put as many tulsi leaves in the coffin box as much as possible. And he gave me a lot of instructions that he forwarded to me from somebody else. But for some reason, I have deleted that email accidentally. So, but these two things I remember, playing the Mahamantra constantly, and
Ganga Jal and Tulsi.
Tulsi, putting it in the coffin, tulsi leaves, offering as much as possible. But I thought, because I didn't know, I just got a Pandit from the Modesto area, whom I didn't know. So obviously he did his way. So that's what I'm asking. How do we select a priest or something?
Yeah, ISKCON ways are very simple. ISKCON's rituals are very and
okay.
They're very simple. That. Yeah. So if the priest comes from, if the priest has to be brought from local place, and he will do some rituals, it's okay.
Oh, okay.
They're doing it, as long as when the time because soul has already left the body, right?
Right.
But having said that, a body that was used in the service of the Lord should be respected, even when the soul has left. So it should be given proper respect when it goes.
Right.
And I can put you in touch with a priest who can explain those things to you.
Okay.
Right, because it has to be done in the American context. I have a godbrother who lost his father in India, but then India is different, right?
Okay, yeah.
I mean, in the COVID time, in the beginning in India, I had some friends who lost their parents. They were not even allowed. Straight from the hospital, they were cremated by the hospital authority.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, so that's why the Hare Krishna Mahamantra should be playing all the time. Even while you're alive, it should be playing, so that when we die, it doesn't matter.
Right.
And there's a verse from Ishopanishad, the 17th verse of Ishopanishad, that is Vayur Anilam Amritam Atyedam Bhasmantam Shariram Om Krito Smara Kritam Smara Krito Smara Kritam Smara. So this verse is saying that when I'm dying, then my air, which is in my body, will get mixed with the totality of the air. And Vayur Anilam, or my fire will get mixed into the fire. Right, like that, Amritam, Athitam, Bhasmantam, Shariram, when my body is being burnt, right, when I'm dying. So then he says, Krito Smara, Kritam Smara. So the Bhakta is praying to Krishna and he's saying that Please remember all that I have done to you. Please remember all that I have done to you. And in the purport, Prabhupada says that, you don't have to worry about Krishna remembering. If you have been a devotee, Krishna will automatically remember you. He will make sure that arrangements are made. For you.
Nice.
So don't, but nonetheless, you can always talk, and it's nice to give instructions and be prepared for the.
Okay, thank you.
We can have kirtan also at that time. Some people.
People come and do.
For my husband, they did kirtan, and then priest did his own, and kirtan is going on.
Varshana Mataji, there's a question coming from there.
Mataji, here in Pune, we have a system. Like you see, if I die, I have told my husband, please inform the temple. Or I have straight away said, inform Janma Mataji. She will get the thing done. So I spoke to Janma Mataji. I was in between. I was very sick, 22nd of October. I was not well. So that time I felt I'm going to die. So that time I told him. And I told Janma Mataji also. I said, Mataji, you have to help my husband doing everything. She said, "Tum mar to sahi." So kahin nahi jayegi. She really laughed it out. She just laughed it out. She said, nothing will happen. But anyway, anything required, we all are there to help out.
Yes.
Being connected with the temple community always helps. Always helps.
I have seen many people dying, and then people from the temple come, they do the kirtan, bakaida, they put the tilak, giving bath, putting the tilak, tulsi, everything, they do it, and then they send the body.
Yeah, they did for my husband here. Temple people, they came and they did kirtan and everything. A lot of people, devotees came.
Okay, so on that sober note, we'll call it a day in this class, and we'll meet again tomorrow morning, starting from
very good class. But what sloka you are telling that sloka, no? For this week?
For 1.1.
1.1, okay.
Vaishnavebhyo namo namah. Premanande Hari Bol. Thank you, Shraddha Mataji. It was the best.
Thank you so much, Mataji.
Thank you.
Sutapa Mataji was on Facebook today.
Oh, okay.
Nikun Sundari and Dilip who were also there.
Who was on Facebook?
Sutapa.
Oh,
she's on Facebook. Okay, Hare Krishna, it's late for
Hare
her.
Krishna.